Iran has claimed 5 separate times in 8 days that it sank the USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed it struck the carrier with ballistic missiles. United States Central Command, or CENTCOM, responded with one word: lie. The Lincoln was not hit. The missile's launch did not even come close. The Lincoln continues launching aircraft in support of CENTCOM's relentless campaign to defend the American people by eliminating threats from the Iranian regime. That was CENTCOM's confirmed public statement, posted on its official account in capital letters. Not a press briefing, not a spokesperson reading prepared notes. The United States military's senior regional command publicly and immediately called Iran's claim a lie. 5 times. On 5 separate days, because Iran repeated the claim 5 different times. Each version slightly different. Each one contradicting the previous one, but at the same time something else was happening. While Iran was claiming it had sunk a carrier, it demonstrably did not sink, and while CENTCOM was publicly calling the claim false, the United States Navy quietly deployed something over the Persian Gulf that it almost never deploys outside American airspace. On March 4th, 2 Boeing E-6B Mercury aircraft took off at the same time. One departed from Tinker Air Force Base, heading toward the Gulf. The other departed from Naval Air Station Passant River toward the eastern side of the Gulf. OSINT flight trackers confirmed both departures. The E-6B Mercury, often called the Doomsday plane, this aircraft exists for one purpose: to guarantee that if every ground-based command center in America were destroyed, if every satellite link were severed, if the president and the entire chain of command were gone, the order to launch America's nuclear arsenal could still be transmitted to submarines hidden beneath the ocean. The United States sent 2 of them to the Persian Gulf. On the same day, CENTCOM publicly denied Iran's carrier claim for the 3rd consecutive day. 1. Here's the complete picture: Iran's 5-day claim campaign, CENTCOM's 5-day denial, the fake videos later confirmed to be video game footage, what CENTCOM posted on its own account to show the Lincoln was still operating, and what the deployment of 2 E-6B Mercury aircraft over the Gulf on March 4th actually signals, regardless of whether Iran hit the carrier or not. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said it had targeted the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, with 4 ballistic missiles, declaring that its strikes against U.S. forces had entered a new phase and warning that land and sea would become the graveyard of what it called terrorist aggressors. Day 1, Iran said 4 ballistic missiles struck the carrier. Day 3, Iran said the carrier had been hit and forced to relocate. Day 5, Iranian state media claimed the aircraft carrier had miraculously resurfaced and left the battlefield after encountering Iranian missiles and drones. Stop on that timeline. Day 1, Iran said it struck Lincoln with 4 missiles. Day 3, it said Lincoln had been hit and was moving away. And step. Day 5, after claiming the carrier had been hit, then retreating, then relocating, Iranian state media said the Lincoln had miraculously resurfaced after leaving the battlefield. The IRGC-owned timeline contradicts itself. A carrier struck by 4 ballistic missiles on Day 1 cannot miraculously resurface on Day 5. Either it was hit on Day 1, in which case it did not resurface, or it was never hit at all. United States Central Command rejected what it described as shifting claims from Iran, noting that Iranian officials had repeatedly asserted the carrier had been sunk before later suggesting it had simply left the battlefield after encountering missiles and drones. Need we say more? CENTCOM posted. They published the contradiction publicly, not in a classified briefing, not in a background statement to selected journalists, but directly on their official social media account, placing the conflicting Iranian claims side by side and asking the audience directly. Need we say more? That is an extraordinary communications decision for a military command. It indicates CENTCOM was so confident in its denial that it chose public mockery over traditional diplomatic language. A video claiming to show the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, burning after being struck by Iranian missiles in 2026 was later traced back to a 2025 post during a different conflict and appears to be generated using the video game Arma 3. U.S. military officials confirmed on March 1st, 2026, that none of the missiles launched by Iran came close to hitting the American aircraft carrier, debunking the recycled footage. Arma 3, a military simulation game developed by Bohemia Interactive. The same developers, the team behind Arma 3, have warned for years that footage from their game can look indistinguishable from real combat video to untrained viewers. The burning carrier footage that spread across social media in the first 48 hours of the war, the footage that received millions of views and was cited by Iranian state media as visual confirmation of the strike, it was actually video game footage recycled from a different claim made during the June 2025 Iran-Israel 12-day war between Iran and Israel. Robert Farley, a senior lecturer on diplomacy and national security at the University of Kentucky, told PolitiFact that if such an attack had actually occurred, people on board the carrier and nearby vessels would have witnessed it. There have been no such witness reports. 5,000 sailors, multiple escort destroyers, support ships, surveillance aircraft. Every person aboard every vessel in the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier strike group would have witnessed a ballistic missile striking a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. Quarvi. Not one witness report exists. Not one sailor confirmed it. Not one escort destroyer reported it. Not one military communication leaked it. Because according to United States Central Command, the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier remains fully operational and continues flight operations in support of U.S. military missions in the region. CENTCOM shared photos on social media showing the carrier continuing normal flight operations as part of its deployment in the region, alongside a statement dismissing Iranian reports that the ship had been hit by missiles or forced to withdraw. Photos were published publicly with timestamps showing F-18 Super Hornet aircraft on the flight deck, launch crews in their color-coded jerseys, engines running, and catapults armed. The visual evidence that the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, had not been hit came not from a classified briefing or a press conference, but from CENTCOM's own social media feed, where anyone in the world with internet access could see the carrier that Iran claimed it had sunk, still launching aircraft. The next morning, now here is the part of the story that almost nobody in mainstream coverage connected to the carrier claim. Because the deployment of 2 Boeing E-6B Mercury aircraft to the Persian Gulf on March 4th is not just a footnote to the Lincoln story. It is the most strategically significant American military deployment of the entire war that most people have never heard of. The Boeing E-6B Mercury operates under United States Strategic Command and is flown by Fleet Air Reconnaissance Squadron 3 and Fleet Air Reconnaissance Squadron 4, both based at Tinker Air Force Base. The U.S. Navy maintains a fleet of 16 E-6B aircraft, ensuring that at least one is airborne at all times through Operation Looking Glass, a continuous airborne alert mission maintained since 1961. Since 1961, the United States has kept at least one E-6B Mercury airborne continuously for 65 years. This practice began at the height of the Cold War, when American military planners concluded that a Soviet Union first strike could destroy every ground-based command center simultaneously, and that the only survivable nuclear command link would be an aircraft already in the air, whose position was constantly changing and therefore impossible to target. The E-6B fulfills 2 critical missions. First, it serves as the take charge and move out platform, providing a survivable communications link between the National Command Authority, the President and the Secretary of Defense, and ballistic missile submarines operating deep beneath the ocean's surface. Using very low-frequency radio transmissions through a trailing wire antenna that can extend up to 5 miles, the aircraft can transmit signals through seawater to reach submarines that would otherwise be cut off. 5 miles of wire trailing behind a modified Boeing 707 at 30,000 feet, transmitting very low-frequency radio signals capable of penetrating seawater deeply enough to reach Ohio-class submarine vessels carrying Trident II, D5 nuclear missiles at depth. The physics of very low-frequency radio requires the antenna to remain nearly vertical, so the E-6B enters a steep, continuous orbit known as a Tacoma bank, flying near stall speed while gravity and aerodynamic drag pull the wire antenna straight downward. When an E-6B Mercury is performing a Tacoma bank over the Persian Gulf, it is physically configured to transmit nuclear launch orders to submarines operating in the Indian Ocean. In early March 2026, following the start of Operation Epic Fury, flight tracking data and regional observers confirmed the presence of at least two E-6B Mercury aircraft operating near the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Their presence coincided with the deployment of a second aircraft carrier strike group led by the USS Gerald R. Ford CVN-78 to the eastern Mediterranean Sea. By placing the Boeing E-6B Mercury in the same theater as the conventional conflict, the United States signaled that its strategic deterrent was not merely a background asset, but an active component of its regional posture. Active component, not background deterrence, not a distant signal from American airspace. Two E-6B aircraft operating simultaneously over the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. The exact waters where Iran has been firing missiles, where the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, is operating, where the Strait of Hormuz has come close to a standstill. America moved its nuclear command aircraft into the same airspace as its conventional combat operations. That is a deliberate strategic signal, designed to be seen, designed to be interpreted, designed to communicate something specific to Iran's remaining leadership. While the United States Department of Defense has not officially confirmed these specific mission profiles, the reports have triggered a deeper examination of the insurance policy behind American nuclear deterrence. Military analysts emphasize that these movements do not confirm a nuclear alert. The E-6B fleet must fly regularly to maintain readiness. Routine training missions are intentionally designed to appear identical to emergency operations. The aircraft itself cannot tell you which mission it is flying. That ambiguity is the deterrent. The ambiguity is the deterrent. That single sentence from a military analyst quoted in the Times is the most precise description of what the E-6B deployment achieves strategically. Iran's remaining leadership, sitting in hardened facilities or underground bunkers across Iran, cannot determine from flight tracking data whether two Boeing E-6B Mercury aircraft over the Persian Gulf are flying a training mission or operating in an active nuclear command posture. They cannot tell the difference. That inability to tell the difference is exactly what the deployment is designed to create. While the deployment does not automatically indicate imminent U.S. nuclear use, it underscores contingency planning for worst-case scenarios, including threats to command infrastructure, radiological incidents, further escalation involving nuclear-capable actors. The United States Navy and the United States Department of Defense have not issued official statements confirming the precise mission purpose, but movements like this are typically linked to exercises, deterrent signaling, or crisis response. Deterrence signaling. That is the confirmed assessment from sources tracking the deployment in real time using OSINT flight tracking data. The E-6B deployment is not preparation for nuclear war. It is a message delivered through the flight path. A message that says, whatever you are planning to do next, whatever target you are considering after the Lincoln claim, after the Al Udeid Air Base radar, after the United States 5th Fleet headquarters. After the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense THAAD system in Jordan, we have already moved the aircraft capable of enabling the ultimate response into the same airspace as this war. So here is where this stands. On March 8, 2026, Iran claimed it had struck the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, 5 times in 8 days. United States Central Command emphasized that the Lincoln was unaffected and continued normal flight operations, stressing that the carrier was not hit and that incoming missiles never came close. The videos circulated by Iran were later confirmed to be video game footage recycled from a previous conflict. CENTCOM published photos showing the carrier still launching aircraft. And PolitiFact rated the burning carrier videos a pants on fire, its highest rating for false claims. Iran does possess ballistic missiles capable of reaching U.S. bases in the region. It demonstrated that capability with attacks toward Israel and Turkey. The logical extension of that capability, even if limited, targets the command infrastructure the United States relies on to conduct military operations in the region. The United States does not wait to activate nuclear command continuity only after a command center is destroyed. It does not wait. That is the strategic logic behind the Boeing E-6B Mercury deployment, A logic outlined and confirmed analysis published this week. America lost a $1.01 billion radar at Al Udeid Air Base on day 1. Iran destroyed a terminal high-altitude area defense THAAD radar system in Jordan on day 3. Iranian bombers came within 2 minutes of Al Udeid Air Base on day 2. The command infrastructure the United States depends on to conduct this war has been systematically targeted since the first hour. The E-6B deployment is the American response to that targeting, ensuring that even if every fixed command node in the Gulf is destroyed, the nuclear command link survives airborne over the Persian Gulf. The deployment of Boeing E-6B Mercury over the Gulf in March 2026 represents a significant escalation in strategic signaling. As the conflict with Iran expands from regional skirmishes toward a broader confrontation, the presence of this specific aircraft indicates that the United States has moved beyond conventional deterrence. The USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, was not hit. Iran's claim was false, contradicted by every available piece of evidence. And while United States Central Command was posting the word Alayan in capital letters on social media, 2 aircraft designed for nuclear war were already airborne over the Persian Gulf. Both things are true. The carrier is fine, and the Doomsday plane is watching.